wham, into the side of a telephone pole. I said, is that guy dead? I said, well, there should be a cop coming from the other way. It was the end of my Dukes of Hazzard days. I was a huge Dukes of Hazzard fan. As a matter of fact, I was 14 when it debuted, which is like the perfect age for someone to be, to be a Dukes of Hazzard fan. I mean, 14, that grabs you perfect, right in the pocket. And it got me. I was all about cars. I used to be a BMX guy, and man, Dukes of Hazzard came around, and I didn't care anything about BMX stuff. I wanted a car right away. So I sold all my BMX stuff. I worked on a farm, so I, worked all summer, saved up enough money to buy this piece of junk 71 split bumper Camaro. I mean, this thing was terrible. But it was a blessing in disguise because it taught me how to work on engines. I needed to rebuild the engine and the transmission and the rear end, the brakes, and needed body work done to it. I needed everything done to it. So I rolled this thing in the barn, just like the General Lee. And 8 months later, it comes rolling out with an engine and all rebuilt and painted and the whole deal. And only a couple of my buddies knew that I had this car. So I was able to go to school one day. Boom, Patrick shows up with this Camaro. You're like, wow, oh, that's so cool. So school's out, first day you take it to school, and everybody's standing around. Of course, you're leaving the parking lot, you got to do this great big burnout. So man, I do this big giant burnout. Cop, boom, right there. I'm like, oh man, that's just the worst thing. So I roll up between the schools, stop, their crowd gathers around. Cars, people all around my car. The cop walks up and he's talking to me and the whole deal and lets me go. I'm like, wow, but everybody's standing around. I mean, I can't just hang my head down. I've got to do something kind of showy. I'm Bo Duke, right? So I start the car up and do this big burnout right between the schools, tearing off. The cop runs back to his car, starts it up, and it's rolling and rolling and rolling. It's back in the era of carbureted cars. Yes, I'm that old. It's flooded. Finally gets the fire up and he's chasing after me. Well, I see him coming, and so I pull off the side of the road. Comes walking up, talks to me, lets me go again. I'm like, wow, I must be just, I'm immortal. I mean, I must be so wily, so creative or something. I'm just absolutely empowered now. I don't think that I can do any wrong or ever get any ticket for anything. And I'm not the best influence here, so let's just get that straight right away. And so we pile in my car, me and a couple of buddies, and we're flying down the road. We got another buddy following us. And my car just quits. So I roll around the corner off the side of the road, and I can't figure it out. My other buddy that was with us, following us, he turns around, comes back, and he says, hey, what's wrong? I got my hood up, I'm out here in the dark. And I said, I don't know, it just quit. And a car comes up on the road behind us, shines a light in the interior, in the engine bay. I could see my coil wires off, and the guy goes, oh, it's a cop. So I saw the coil wires off, and I put the coil wire on. I backed up, and I waited till he got about halfway to me. And he's walking to the car. I slam the hood down, run around and jump in the door just like the Duke boys through the window. He turns around, he's running back to his cop car. I start my car up, boom, and tear off between my buddy and him, and peel off, and we're flying down the road. We're moving. And he's chasing me. And you can see, there's no way he's going to catch this car. His car's modified. It's really fast. And we're probably doing, 140, 150 miles an hour. He's getting further and further back. He's not able to keep up. We fly off the road. We're 3 feet in the air. We hit this big giant tree. The car just basically rips in half, flips up through the tree and lands on the ground upside down. Gas tank splits open, gas pours everywhere, but the engine and transmission and exhaust is broken away, so nothing catches on fire. I wake up in a cornfield 7 hours later. I was in shock. Somebody picks me up, takes me back home, and Dad says, well, we got to go report this, So Dad takes me to the county because there's a state cop that was chasing us. And so we go to the county, and I take a report, the whole deal. And I told him that it was foggy, and that's why, we hit the tree. The guy says, boy, it looked like you were going pretty fast. I said, no, we were speeding. This junk old car broke up. And, okay. And so that's it? No ticket? I said, no, you're good to go. No ticket. I'm like, wow, I was lucky. So it's about a year later, I bought this 68 Firebird. So I'm running home from work, pop up over the hill, boom, state cop. I'm like, oh man. So I back on the gas and fly down this road. And I got this one road that I used to always use, and it broke 3 ways. So go down the road. First time I went to the left, boom, lost it. Yeah, good deal. So I didn't go that way home. About 2-3 weeks later, I said, well, it's a faster way home. I need to go home. I'll just take that way. He's got to be gone by now. Pop up over the hill. Bam, there he is again. And boom, off I go. Because I'm speeding. Fly down that same road. This time I went right. Boom, lost him. Yeah, good deal. Never went that way home again. Had enough of that. So it's about a year later, sitting at a bar restaurant with my dad. This guy's looking over at me. I'm like, oh, this ain't good. I said to Dad, I said, man, this guy's coming over. I said, this probably isn't good. I don't know what it's about. The guy says, hey, you're Patrick, aren't you? I said, yeah. He goes, you used to have a gold Camaro? I said, yeah. You had a black Firebird? I said, I did have a black Firebird. He goes, I'm the guy that was chasing you in both of those cars. I'm like, oh, man. He said, don't worry, I'm retired now. He said, but he said, when you was chasing you in the Camaro, he said, I was on vacation that very next day, so I found out about it from a report when I got back. He said, well, you were in an accident. That's punishment enough. So I let you go. He said, but I wanted you in that Firebird, but I wanted to catch you. He said, when you took off and went down Bollinger Road, he said, which way'd you go? I said, well, the first time I went left. He says, I went right. I said, the second time I went right. He goes, I went left. So I got away without a ticket again. So it's probably 6 years later. I've got this Fiero GT that I bought. It's not a very fast car, but it corners and brakes really good. So I'm on my way to work and I'm following this Z28. And 82 Z28, they're not super fast anyways, but it's about 10 miles an hour faster than my car. I found that out the hard way. Chasing down the road, and we're dodging around, racing around. Every time we come to a corner, I could, dive underneath them, and he would give me the room, and I could pass him when we turned. And then he would come back around me, and I'd give him the spot so he could come back around. So we're getting up to some pretty good speed. Now I can always tell when I hit about 115 with that Fiero because the right headlight would pop up. So I said, oh man, we're really flying. And we're coming up to this hill, and there's this Olds 88, beat up Olds 88, and it's going up the hill. I said, well, I'm not going to pass up the hill. I'm in the lead right now, and he's gaining. I said, so it's time to stop. So I hit the brakes, and he swings out. He's going to pass going up the hill. I'm like, well, he's clearing the way. So I tuck in behind him before I lose too much speed, and we go blowing past this old 80. And we break the hill, and he commits the ultimate sin. He's in the left lane, he wants to change lanes, he hits the brakes while he's going down a hill and he's changing lanes. Car swings left, car swings right, car swings back to left. I go, oh, he's gonna catch it, oh no, boom, spins around. I got this perfect view of this thing as it spins around. He flies off the road, hits all these little trees, these little saplings, just up trees, leaves are just flying off them, and then wham, into the side of a telephone pole. So I go to work. I worked at a dealership then. So I parked my car amongst all the other cars and grabbed one of the mechanics. I said, hey, Steve, you got to run me out to this deal. We got to see what happened here. So we go get in his car and we go racing out to the scene. This Z28 is just piled around this telephone pole. I mean, the telephone pole smashed into the car right up to the console. You can see an imprint of the air cleaner right in the hood. And I mean, this guy's dead, right? So I go back to work. And phone rings, and the parts manager from the Chevy dealership, Jake, calls me and says, hey, were you racing a guy on the way to work this morning? I said, is that guy dead? He goes, no. He goes, he went to work. I said, wow, I can't believe that. And the cops come sniffing around, and they couldn't put anybody together, and I didn't get a ticket on that one either. So it's about 4 years later, bought a 89 Formula 350, and they just came out with the 350s. And man, Tuesday that thing came in. By Thursday, I had that thing cylinder heads off, the transmission out, and I was building that thing all up. That thing was going to be a big hot rod, change the rear gears in it, and the whole deal. That thing would just do 200-foot long burnouts. When I first got it, it barely squeaked the tire. and it's really fast. So I'm racing down the road one day, and I'm probably doing 150 miles an hour, and way behind me, like a mile behind me, a cop light comes on. I'm like, wow, I don't know where he came from, but why would he turn his light on so far back? So I stay on the throttle. I'm like, no way this guy's gonna catch me, but I gotta get rid of him. So I knew this road banked to the right. There was an off-ramp on this, and I was gonna get off this off-ramp and hide under the bridge. So the road banked to the right. I'm far enough ahead that he can't see me. And I don't know if you've traveled at a high rate of speed for a long period of time, but after you get doing 150 for a while, 80 feels like 40. So I go off this off-ramp, and I'm going way too fast. There's no way I'm going to be able to stop. And so I'm going down the off-ramp, and there's a car coming from the other way, and I'm like, oh, I can't stop in time. I can't judge it right on the brakes, but I can judge it right on the gas. So I jump back on the throttle, and I race down the off-ramp and race back up the other side, and I pop up right behind the cop. And I'm like, wow. And obviously it's dark out, but I'm like, what am I gonna do here? So I'm just slowing down, because I'm probably doing 80 to 90, because it's a short on-ramp. It pops right back onto the highway, because it drops down, pops back up. And so he's slowing down, I'm slowing down. He's slowing down more. I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing 55 miles an hour on a 65 mile an hour highway, and he's probably doing 45. I'm gaining on him. I'm like, maybe he's looking for a road to turn around at. Maybe he's looking for me, or maybe he thinks I'm behind him. I don't know. Finally, my off-ramp comes up, and I take the off-ramp, and I lost him, and I got away with that one too. So quite a bit of time goes by, and I bought a new Camaro, and so some people want to meet me at my boat, go out and do a day of boating. So got all the girls gathered together, and everybody's gonna go have a good day of boating. Everybody's gonna have a good time. I'm an hour away. I can be there in 45 minutes. I gotta cut some time off this trip. So I get up to a stoplight. Buick Grand National's parked next to me. Well, this is the brand new Camaro. They're gonna want to race me, right? Oh yeah, he's revving on me already. So light changes, boom, we get going. I'd probably get into third gear, and cop right in the other lane coming the other way. He's got a perfect view of us. I'm like, oh crap, I mean, we're busted. So I look at him, see what he's gonna do. He lifts off. I'm like, okay man, you're taking it. So I jump back on the throttle, and he kind of jumps back on throttle. So I don't know what he was doing, but I'm gone. So I grab the next road to the right. Well, I know this area. I live down in Florida now, and if you know anything about Florida roads, they get that limestone down, and that's just like a wall of nothingness. I mean, you can't see through that at all. So I hopped on one of those limestone roads that I knew, and just blew up dust like crazy. I'm screaming down that road, and I knew off to the left, the road went to the left, and then it would go up a hill. I could hide from up on this hill underneath this tree, and I guess it was darker under there, because I'd done this before. And I see him, he's looking around, because I can see him in the valley area, a little lower area there, and I can see him looking around. I said, well, there should be a cop coming from the other way, because they're probably going to try to surround me. Waited a few more minutes, no cop coming from the other way, and he was going the wrong way. So I said, all right, it's time, I'm going to get out of here. So then I take off, text everybody, says, hey, I'm on my way, and pop back on the road. Here's this beautiful red Camaro completely covered in lime dust. Man, half a mile up the road, there's that Grand National surrounded by 3 cop cars that are practically blocking the road, and I go by as far in the left lane as I possibly could. Boom, got away with that one too. A few years go by, and I had a GTS Viper, and they enjoyed it, had a good time with it, and there was a ACR Viper left over on the showroom floor. And so I guess just a couple years back, because it's about a year old then. And it was a one of one, black and yellow ACR Viper. Just the beautifulest car, just the most beautiful car. And my girlfriend at the time says, oh, she's a big car nut. She says, I would look so good in that. She thinks she's funnier than she really is. So I said, I gotta have this thing. But it's really expensive. This is 10 years ago. This was a $103,000 car. It's a pretty pricey car for me then, but I had to have it. Go down the showroom, buy the car. Man, this is fantastic. But I was a little older now, and I wasn't quite as quick as I used to be. And this car was just always a handful. It was like driving a bucking Bronco. It was always trying to throw you. But I was Bo Duke. I mean, I could do this. I could handle this car. I was the man. And so I would always throw the car around and would always try to snap steer. You had to drive that car one-handed because that car was always trying to come around on you. Even when I first got it, it was a real dog when I first got it. I traded in a GTS Viper for it, and I couldn't believe how slow it was. And then they said, well, it hits 500 miles, and all of a sudden you get 200 more horsepower. And I found that out the hard way. I pulled out of the neighborhood, used to going flat to the floor, and all of a sudden I had this 200 more horsepower, and the car snap spins. That's the first time I snap spun this car. I'm like, wow, this car is just violent. And I'd always warned everybody that rode with me. I said, when we take off to go grab gears, this thing's going to try to swap ends when it gets to about second gear. That's the way that this thing is. You got to be careful when you drive it. So I was having a good time, showing off my driving prowess, my skills, even at my age, and out racing down the road, and all by myself, and it was popped up over this hill, going probably 20, 30 over the speed limit. Boom, cop. Oh man, don't worry, I got this covered. Back on the throttle, down there, got to race around, got to pass this van on the outside. Don't worry, I got it covered. I got to shift mid-corner, messed up the shift. Car snap spins, flies off the road. All my Bo Duke talents are gone. I fly into the woods, into the trees, completely total the car out. Spend a month in the hospital, multiple reconstructions on my leg. It was an absolute nightmare. It was the end of my Dukes of Hazzard days. From this day forward, whenever the weather changes and I pick up that big old limp from all that surgery, I blame Bo Duke.